Skal, and welcome back to Valkyrie's Art Corner. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notification of my new videos. Today's going to be a little bit lengthy video. I'm going to show you in full of how I actually draw and shade a more quote-unquote realistic type drawing. And we are going to be drawing Phil from the Minions. And he's portrayed with the two eyes, so I'm not really good with perfect circles. So what I'm doing here is taking my paint cap, and drawing two circles for the eyes, and then just doing that all the way around. So if you as well have trouble drawing circles initially, use something rounded until you can get used to it. And then what I'm going to do is kind of erase the parts that I missed when I went around where it wasn't connected. And then I'm going to draw the two inner circles for the metal part and where the glass goes. And I'm going to repeat that same thing over here on this side. And with the inside ones, I kind of have to freehand the circles a little bit because I didn't have anything just slightly smaller than my paint cap. And Phil has the separation in the metal piece of his eye, so I had to kind of change that up a little bit. And then we're going to draw the half circle for the eye, or the half line for the other eye, and he's going to be looking away eventually. After I darken these lines up right here, and draw a little half circle in the corner, leaving a little white part, and that would be one pupil. And then repeat the same thing over there, and make sure the eyes or the little pupil are looking in the same direction, because otherwise you're going to look all cockeyed when you draw it. One thing I'm going to be doing throughout the video is darkening my lines in as I go, because I'm going to be doing that smudge technique with my finger like I did the last time. So sometimes the lines that I make dark will actually lighten up, so I'll just have to go back over them again. And then right now I'm drawing a half circle on the outside, because the way he's turned, you can actually see the outside rim of the goggles that he wears. So what I'm going to do is repeat that a second time on just the outside. And then what I'm doing here is I'm starting into the shading, because I shade as I go. So depending on what I'm doing, I'll actually shade. So on the outside rims, you'll tend to want to go a little bit light toward where the goggles are, and then darker away from the goggles. And anything else that you draw onto that, especially on that side, because the light is going to be coming in from the left-hand side. So anything on the right-hand side will actually be much darker. And now I'm drawing a curved line right here for the head, and then curving the head back around. Oh, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, this version of Phil is actually going to be in his maid outfit. In the first film, for Despicable Me, he was one of the three minions that went out. I think it was Bob and Tim. I don't know, they all look the same to me, to go out and get Agnes the new unicorn. But in the second one, he answers the door when Dr. Nefarious shows back up to get Gru, but he answers the door wearing a maid outfit. So, and he's also one of the first minions that was turned into those purple crazy monster things that eat everything. So I'm going to be like I said, I'm going to be drawing him in his maid uniform. So that line was a little bit inaccurate, so I went back and fixed it and added the strap. And then again, I'm just kind of going over here and making the lines a little bit darker, and adding in the side goggle on the left goggle, because those goggles do stick out a little far, so you're going to see details on the other goggle as well. And then I'm just shading as I go. Now the different shade techniques that I have in here, since I'm using a mechanical pencil and not those special pencils that I mentioned in my last video, is depending on how hard you press it, it'll make it darker, or the lighter you go, like the lighter pressure you put down on it, it makes it very, very light. So you can get a good variation of your shades with the mechanical pencil. But if you want to get all professional, you can always go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby, or right now order them off of Amazon because everything's in lockdown. So yeah, and those typically run anywhere between, I think, 12 and 30 bucks. So they tend to get a little pricey, so I just stick with my mechanical pencil. So I'm just shading in a little bit more over here to kind of make it a little bit more noticeable. I'm shading dark on the outside and lighter on the inside. It's still a dark shading, but again, it gives that like gradation from dark to light. And then now I'm just adding in a little bit of smudging and just shading on the inside of the goggles to get that gray kind of silver tone that it has. It'd be a little bit different if I was actually like painting it or anything like that. I could actually do the colors rather than just smudging it. And then I'm going to shade a little bit on the inside of the goggle. Again, this part right here, drawing it in a little bit dark, will actually give the illusion of depth. So it makes it look more like it's popping off the paper rather than a two-dimensional drawing. And I'm thickening up that line because when I smudged it, it kind of erased it. And then I'm going to do the same for this one over here, is draw in some shading on the inside of the goggle. And you kind of want to have medium pressure here because you don't want it to go too dark, but you want it to be dark enough so it can be seen. So again, medium pressure right here, and then just kind of smudge it out to kind of straighten up your lines a little bit. And then we're just darkening up the lines over here. And as you can tell, it's starting to give it a little bit more detail. Now also, if you noticed, I did not start off with my basic shapes or my grid or anything like that. This is more so a video, like I said, to show you how to shade. So if anyone has any questions about that, just refer back to how to use my grid video, and you'll kind of get a general idea. There will be a few videos out that I don't use it. So, all right, so on the headband, he has this frilly cloth thing that you would typically see the quote-unquote French maid outfits. They would have with it to kind of signify, oh, this is a maid, other than just the outfit. I don't know why the headband was made popular with it, but apparently it just makes the outfit look good. So I'm doing the same thing here, as I'm actually drawing in a dark shading line to where it makes contact with his scalp, and then drawing it in on the inside where it's dark on the outside and then a little bit lighter on the inside to give that perception. And then the line right here where the fabric actually connects with the headband, where that crease kind of is. And now what I'm doing is just drawing random strands of his hair, because the minions, they have very little hair. So I'm just kind of drawing his stray hairs that kind of just pop up. And you'll want to do the same thing in the back as well, because that headband kind of separates and pushes some of his hair back. And then I'm doing some shading lines here to show creases in the fabric. So you'll want to do a semi-light hand, but enough to where you can actually see the creases in the fabric. And I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit. The goggles were kind of bothering me because the rim of them was not dark enough. And then we're just doing a very light-handed shade underneath where the headband is, and over here off to the side. Again, since the light's coming in from the left, the shading needs to be on the right. So you want to lightly kind of in the same direction, hopefully. Sometimes I go a little bit crazy and go different directions. Just take your finger and smudge it. That way you get that nice shaded look. And then we're going to draw a line straight down from his left eye, and then one from his right. to kind of start drawing his body. And for his mouth, he's kind of doing a shh kind of lip thing going on here. So you'll want to draw a circle with 2 lines coming out the sides. Just like that, to kind of give it that shh look. And since the minions are kind of very minorly detailed, it doesn't show like the outline of the lips, or I'm not going to have to do any realistic lips. So that one's just done for that. And now we're going back over here and continuing the shading on the right hand side. So as you can tell from how I'm drawing everything pretty much from the top down, because it prevents smudging on the outside of the picture where you don't want it. So for the strap, you just color it in a little bit dark, and then in the areas where the light kind of somehow gets over there, you want to make it light. And again, just touching in the goggles to make them pop right there. Sometimes I get what one of my friends says is I get a squirrel moment where I'll just get distracted by something and move on, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I still have to do this. So I do apologize if I jump around. Now that line was just a little bit too long, so what we're going to do is we're jumping into his hand. He's got rubber gloves on just like a lot of the other minions, but this one uses his gloves mostly just for cleaning. So we want to do his finger pointed, and then when you come down the back, you do a slight bump, and then a curve at the bottom, and then once I move my hand, you'll see it, and then a curve down on the bottom to kind of do that, and then a half kind of like curved rectangle for his elbow to show that it's bent. And this I'm actually drawing in the shading line just to indicate, okay, this is where the light shines down on it, so I need to be darker around this line. So remember, on the edge that connects to his arm and then down under where his finger curls up and where the palm of his hand would be, you need to shade it in the darkest area. Now this drawing is a good example of what to do when you're drawing a black on black kind of coloration, what to do and what not to do on some of it, because I realized after I did it, I had made some mistakes. So, but yeah, draw it really dark around where his finger's curved and around the palm of his hand, and then shade it in just a slight lift up off the pressure of it, just slightly, and color in the glove again. And the reason why it has such a bright shine line is because the gloves are either are rubber or they're leather, one of the two. So that area up there is going to automatically be like a high shine area. And so what I'm doing here is just kind of smudging that in. So again, that kind of goes with how his lips are right now. He's putting his finger up to be like shh. So now I'm going to draw down here the top of Phil's maid outfit and going all the way over here. And I'm drawing the top of the bow. I'm going to draw kind of like a square on the inside of the bow. And then I'm going to draw a line down here, kind of curve it a little bit and come back up. And put a line in the middle to show that the bow is tied. And repeat the same thing over here on this side. And remember to always put the line on the inside where the actual bow is, to show that it's been tied into that knot. And then, as with most bows, the excess that comes down from tying. So I'm going to continue down here to draw the opening of the top part of the maid outfit. And where his arm will be exposed, you'll draw a curved line out here. And then curve it back up. Now in the picture, his arm was actually shaped like that, so it looked a little off to me, but I went back and kind of adjusted it how I would want it. And then, now the maid outfit has frills on the top. So that's what we're going to do, is kind of go all the way down to about right here, to where the curve of it is, and then draw a couple in the back to show that it's around the back. And one thing I noticed with this maid outfit, it seems like he doesn't wear a shirt underneath it, so that's why it's got a lot of skin showing. So down here we're going to do the same thing that we did with the other glove over there. We're going to do a half curve for the palm, a partial kind of like triangle around the wrist, and then the curve where his fingers are going to come up. And again, this part right here is actually going to be more so where the maid outfit skirt is, so you're going to really need to be careful on the shading on that one. And now what I'm doing is just drawing the waistband, because if you've ever seen a maid outfit, the string ties around the front and then bows in the back to kind of give it that more form-fitting look to it. So right now, since I drew that in, I'm going to color in the top part of the maid outfit and focusing on just making it just a slight shade lighter than what was on the dark shadowing on the glove. And then darkening where the bow would actually set on the fabric, so that way it gives it that dimension. And then just doing this the whole way over. And so you can still see the difference between the top part of the shirt and the glove. So and that's what we want to go for. And then you want to do really light-handed shading because the bow is white, so you just need a slight gradation to show where the shading is. So you'll want to do it under the bow, on the crease, and everything like that. And then we're just going to repeat the dark shading process down here. And go along the top of the waist tie. Now I didn't like how abrupt that curve was, so I adjusted it with the darker tone. And that's the good thing about working with dark clothing, is that if you mess up on a line, you can easily cover it up with either shading or just the actual color itself. And this part right here on the uniform is going to be a little bit lighter than the other side. For one, his hand isn't blocking it, and two, there's more direct light on it. So it's going to be naturally just a little shade lighter. So what I'm doing is I kind of did a light shading on the inside, and then now I'm just smudging it with my finger to kind of give it that look. And then going over what I think needs to be darker. That way it still gives it that tone. So now I'm just adding in a slight shading where the frills around the neck are, because where the neck is, because that's where a lot of the shading is over there as well. So now I'm going to jump up here where, while I don't have the skirt colored in, and do some really light-handed shading right here to show more emphasis and make the character look more rounded like he's supposed to. And if there's some solid lines that end up showing up, which it does here, if it doesn't smudge out, you can always take your eraser and go back into it and make it look a lot cleaner. And now we go down here, since this is more of his backside where his arm is up. You want to go a slight bit darker behind his arm and a little bit lighter in the front. And I did not like how thick that line turned out, so I actually drew in a darker part to thin the line out where the skirt would be. And now I'm just smudging it out just to give it more detail. And then on the back side of his arm, you'll want to go medium to light pressure back behind his armpit and his shoulder. You'll want to go to medium to hard to give it that variation of shading. So now I'm going on to this glove right here. We're going to do the same thing we did on the other glove, where the parts that faces further away from the light, you want to press hard, but not so hard that you're breaking the graphite in your pencil or you're poking a hole through the paper, to kind of give it that dark detail of the glove for the shading. And then just come around here where the knuckles are, where he has it resting on his hip. And just shade it in. And again, we won't have that bright white light spot that the other glove has, because his hand is further back over onto his side. So now I'm going to come down here with a line and then draw a curve out. And it's not going to be a straight line, so you want to make it wavy, like the way a dress, if you've ever seen it, looks when it's all frilled out and everything like that. So we'll do that all the way around to the other side. And with maid outfits, they typically wear aprons, so when they're cleaning, they can just kind of wipe their hands off on there, or that's what I would do, is use it for like a, just kind of wipe my hands off, or sometimes it's just there to make it look good. So you'll draw that half C, the squiggly lines on the outside, and then you'll draw another slightly bigger half C to give it a little bit more detail. And then I went back in and darkened up and just shaded very lightly along the side just to kind of give it some detail. And then over here on this side as well. Now we're going to draw in or color in the skirt. Now I would attempt to do this with marker, but I'm not too, well, I can, but I'm not too familiar with how to keep it on the gradation, because it's a little bit different when you try to color it in with marker. It doesn't matter how hard or how soft you push it. Yeah, if you push it hard, a lot of ink's going to go on the paper, but it's going to make the paper soggy. If you go light, it's almost the exact same. So I might have to do a video on how to do cross-hatching shading, or even pointillism, which is taking very tiny dots instead of using lines and making that into a picture. Because the closer together the dots are, the darker the shading. The further away, it's the reverse, it's lighter shading. So that might be an idea for another video. And pointillism is very, very, very time consuming, so that one will definitely be a time lapse. The last one that I did took me 4 days to do because of how detailed it was. It was a portrait of I can't remember what the model's name was, but yeah, so that would be a good idea. So now I'm just kind of going back in and touching up in areas where I thought it wasn't dark enough up top, and then just continuing in to fill in the bottom of the skirt with repeating the same techniques from up above. And just smudge it in and blend it. It helps hide your pencil lines. Now hopefully this video kind of gives you an idea of how long it takes me to actually do a drawing like this. This is not a sped up video at all. So this video, I think it took me about 26 minutes to draw this. Everyone's at a different skill level. There's some people that can pop out a drawing like this in 10 minutes. And then some it takes a few hours to a few days because they have to take their time to get the technique down because they're not as experienced. Or that's just typically what their pace is. So don't take mine and look at it and be like, oh, I can't do this because she did it in 26 minutes, so I have to do it in 26 minutes. No, don't ever take it that way. Take your time, watch it as many times as you need to until you get it to where it's almost perfect. No piece of art is ever perfect. I mean, it could be perfect to somebody else, but you are your own worst critic. This minion drawing of my, oops, sorry, I just kicked one of my son's halo guns. Yeah, so you draw the filly on the bottom, and now we're getting into the shoes, and he wears like the black boots just like every other minion. And then this one we're just going to apply the same technique as above, darker underneath the skirt and down under the foot where the foot makes contact with the ground, and then lighter in the middle because that's where the light would kind of reflect off the top of the shoe. And then after that we are going to go into the other shoe, which his foot is kind of pointed out, so I think the terminology for it, it's almost like he's in a pirouette, which is a ballerina, where it's like it's heel to heel and one toe's pointed forward and one toe's pointed sideways. And then just color it in as such, just like the other one. The tip of this one will be a little bit lighter than the other one because it's pointed more toward the light source. And then once you get toward the end of your drawing, after you get done shading, just kind of take a quick look over your drawing, see if there's any areas that still need to be shaded in, or if there's any areas you missed. Now's the time to go back in and get it. Even then, so in a lot of my drawings, I'll sign it like I'm right here, and then I'll notice after I'm done drawing, oh crap, I forgot to shade in this spot, or I forgot to draw on something here. So it's really simple. With a pencil, you can always go back in and add that later. But I think our Phil turned out quite well. I don't know where they got their names from, or even if they're a boy or girl. I just called him him because Phil sounds like a guy's name. So right now I'm just checking it over, see if there's any spots I need to shade in, which I think, yes, right here. Add a little bit more shading in. And smudge that in. And I think it actually looks good now. If I find anything else, I'll fix it later. But yeah, tell me if you like this video, if you'd like to see more stuff like this, and have a good day.